Strong and Healthy After 40 podcast. We are discussing tools and practical strategies for women over 40 to optimize their fitness, hormones, and metabolism. I'm Dr. Sara Whatley, a family medicine physician with an integrative approach to whole person care.
And I'm John Agbelusi, your strength coach with over 25 years as a certified fitness professional, helping women over 40. Sara, if there was a supplement that could help women improve their hormones, improve their metabolism, improve their health overall in all aspects, I would think that supplement would be sleep.
Boo. Never heard of it.
Yes. So this is a funny topic because whenever I bring this topic up with my clients, it's funny because it's like the topic that they don't want to talk about. It's like, yes, everybody knows that they need to be better at sleep. And again, we're living in, I think, a time in the world where sleep is a deficiency in everybody because of so many factors. But maybe help us out, help us understand, so I don't have to keep saying it to my clients, help my clients and help everybody understand, why is sleep so important?
Well, sleep is a third of our health, basically, right? If you think about our day, we have 24 hours in a day and we should be sleeping for 8 hours. So that's a third of our day. So usually when I'm talking to my patients, I actually get, oh yeah, I'm sleeping fine. Yeah. So first, let's talk about what good sleep is, or what I am referring to when I say, okay, how are you sleeping? Mm-hmm. So good sleep would be falling asleep within 20 minutes when you get into bed, sleeping for on average about 8 hours. If you do wake up, you quickly fall back asleep. So falling asleep quickly within 20 minutes, sleeping for 8 hours, waking up feeling refreshed. Yeah. Okay, so that's good sleep. Mm-hmm. So then the conversation turns. I say, okay, how are you sleeping? Oh, well, I sleep terrible. And why that is important, again, is in theory, if that's a third of your day, it's a third of your health. That's 33% of your health. Yeah. If we're not nailing it, we're already at a D average for our health. Yeah. So that's always where we want to start if we want to optimize our health.
Yeah. And again, the importance of it, like you said, is because it is supposed to, and I think it's supposed to be, a third of our life. 8 hours is kind of the recommendation for sleep to really get your brain to really make the cycles that it needs to make to get your body to recover the way it needs to recover. But on average, women over 40, people in general at large, are not getting that 8 hours of sleep. What are some of the things that happen when we don't get enough sleep from the medical side?
Sure. So if we're not getting enough sleep, we're not restoring, we're not repairing, then we're not starting with a full bucket the next day anyway. So what that looks like physiologically is that our body is under stress, physiologic stress. So if we're tired, our cortisol will increase. So cortisol is our stress hormone. We do like it when we are in an actual stressful situation. We need to get up and go. We're being chased by the bear, right? We want it to be high. But otherwise, if it's high, then that also disrupts our blood sugars. And so then if our blood sugars are fluctuating throughout the day, that affects our energy. And ultimately, then that can also affect our weight, good or bad. And then it affects our sleep later in the evening as well. If we're tired, but we're not going to sleep, then our body will say, okay, we either need to eat or we need to sleep. We're not sleeping, then we need to eat. We're eating things we shouldn't. Or our cortisol goes up before bed because we're forcing ourselves to stay up, and now we're asking our brain to calm down and go to sleep, and it can't.
Yeah, and that's huge. It's almost as if sleep, getting enough sleep, sets up either us for success if we do get enough sleep, or almost kind of predisposes us to failure when we don't get enough sleep. And I definitely see that on the workout side, on the fitness floor, on the coaching side. Clients that don't get enough sleep have a hard time being compliant with every other aspect. It's so hard to function at a normal level when you're sleep deprived all the time. And so that's definitely what I see. Clients that have a really hard time being compliant to their nutrition, making good food choices. These big fluctuations in blood sugar can be attributed to a certain extent to lack of sleep. Your hunger hormones and hunger responses completely go wonky when you're not getting enough sleep. And so we see clients that just have a tendency to binge eat more when they are not getting enough sleep. And then again, all those other hormones that get adjusted, that get altered when you're not getting enough sleep, cause, like you said, there's these sugar cravings, because it's almost like, hey, I'm not recovered enough. I don't really have enough mental energy. I'm craving sugar, or even worse, sugar and caffeine, right, to kind of keep myself going. And then that sets us up for more failure. It's okay. My nutrition's been wonky all day. Have way too much caffeine, and then now I'm not going to get restful sleep when I do go to bed. So we know that there's a lot of issues with sleep. Let's talk about some of the things that we can do, practical strategies to getting more sleep. What would you say?
First things first would be tracking your sleep.
Okay.
So we don't know where we are or where we're going if we don't know where we are.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm a big fan of wearables. We've talked about that before. Even if it's temporary, if you don't love them, but it's really great to understand our sleep. How long is it taking us to fall asleep? How much deep sleep are we getting? How much light sleep? How often are we waking in the night? So then we know how to approach that. Is it more of a falling asleep issue? Is it a staying asleep issue? The other thing that would be really important, if there's some other clues indicating sleep apnea, would be to get a home sleep test to check and make sure that you don't have sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is where you don't get enough oxygen when you sleep. So for all of us, when we sleep, our respiration rate goes down. We're breathing less. But if it goes down to the point that you're not breathing, or your oxygen goes below a certain level, then that is another disruptor for sleep, but it also affects your cortisol and your blood sugars and other things throughout the day. It's not just limited to sleep. It will impact the whole rest of your day. And most of our studies are done on men, and so we apply that information to women because we used to assume they were just tiny men. And it turns out they're not.
Women are not tiny men?
Yeah, it turns out. It's interesting. It's a new phenomenon we're still learning
Big surprise.
about. And so if somebody snores really loudly, then that's sort of this indicator that, you probably have sleep apnea. But women present in a lot of different ways. Some do snore, but a lot just have silent apnea, so no snoring, they just stop breathing. Or a big one is grinding your teeth. And so some people might say, I have TMJ, I'm wearing this appliance for my TMJ, but that's just keeping us from grinding or hurting our teeth or hurting our muscles musculoskeletally, but it's not addressing the actual breathing piece of that. So I love getting sleep studies on all of my patients. They might snore, teeth grind, or anytime that they're tired or unsure how their sleep is, then a sleep study is warranted.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think that's a huge point. And, when I see that, especially with a client that is, really wanting to make some positive health improvements in their life, obviously they know that they want to start sleeping better, getting more sleep. That's part of the holistic approach. And with some clients, they will see and make a point to track their sleep, get better sleep. But some of them do, and yet they're still seeing those same symptoms of poor sleep. They'll have low recovery, low energy. They're just not getting the results that they want, that they would expect. Like, hey, I'm in bed more. I'm technically sleeping more. I'm glad you brought that up, because they may be getting sleep. They may be even sleeping more, but there is an underlying issue where their body's really not getting the quality of sleep that they need because of an underlying medical issue. So yeah, really important to get those sleep studies. So talk to us just a little bit more. We talked about how important it is to get quality sleep, track sleep. Tell us a little bit more about why tracking is so important and some of the stats that we should be looking for if we have a wearable, and there's so many on the market. But what are some of the important stats that we should be looking at if we're actually trying to track our sleep and improve the quality of sleep, and then also see if there's some sort of deficiency there?
Yeah, great question. Most of the wearables now will track some pretty consistent data. One is your sleep latency, or how long it takes you to fall asleep. So that's important. We want it to be around 20 minutes. If it's longer, then that's a way to help us understand what strategy to give you first for sleep. Because some people might say, I get in bed and I lay there for hours. Okay, well, now our brain is learning that once I get in bed, I lay here for hours. So we want to address that. Other things would be looking at light or deep sleep, or it might say REM or non-REM sleep, depending on which wearable you have. And we want to have at least 90 minutes in both of those categories. That would be like a really great area to aim for. Those specifics can change per person, but generally, if you're kind of looking at your data, that's what we want to look for. And then if your wearable is tracking your oxygen, which many of them do, it's different than a home sleep test, but it can give you either indicators that you've had disrupted breathing or that your oxygen hasn't been optimal. So a lot of patients come in, we never would have thought that they had sleep apnea because maybe they don't have those classic symptoms. And their wearable has given them some sort of indicator. And the technology these days is pretty good, so I do like to listen to that. Or anytime that the wearable might indicate that your heart rhythm has been a little bit off, then that can spark us doing some additional testing.
Yeah, like some of the wearables, they will talk about like sleep stress, which is really important. And then kind of monitoring, yeah, resting heart rate is another key factor. Like, where is your resting heart rate while you're sleeping? And there are these big spikes in heart rate, which is an indicator of stress and can be, obviously you're not going to use a sleep monitor or a wearable to give you a diagnosis, but they can prompt like, hey, like I should talk to my doctor. My numbers are really wonky. My resting heart rate's all over the place, or my heart rate during sleep is all over the place. My stress during sleep is all over the place. I should probably talk to my medical professional about doing a sleep study.
Sure, it's just data.
Yeah.
Right? And then you need a team to help you interpret, okay, what does that mean for me?
Yeah. So we've talked about some the importance of sleep, kind of some of the symptoms that, obviously your patients and my clients already know about sleep. Like, we don't want to just tell people get more sleep because that's something that they already know. Let's talk about what are some ways that, and simple ways, like we don't want to get overly complicated, things that our listeners could implement tonight or tomorrow, or tomorrow, that can really help them get better quality of sleep right away. So I've definitely got the things I recommend to our clients. What are some of the maybe top 2 things that you recommend to your patients to start really improving the quality of the sleep that they're getting?
Sure. So what we call this is sleep hygiene. Okay. And so that is our routine leading up to bedtime. And so some of us are like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I just do life and then I go get in bed. But whether we recognize it or not, we do have habits leading up to bedtime. And so we want to optimize those habits to lead to sleep. A lot of that has to do with calming down our brain and our body. So about an hour before bed, so 60 minutes before bed would be an optimal time to start to back off from any electronics, which could be your TV or your phone. I know that sounds a little crazy to some people.
So crazy.
Another thing would be getting into bed when it's bedtime, not getting into bed to watch TV or to scroll on our phone. Because again, we're teaching.
Oh, you're hurting me so much right now.
We are no longer friends. The podcast is over. But what we're doing is we're training our brain that when we get into bed, it doesn't know, are we scrolling? Are we watching TV? Are we hanging out? Are we going to sleep? And so hour before bed, we're going to back off on electronics. We're going to lower the lights. We don't want all that stimulation for our brain, and have a repetitive routine. And that could be different for different people. But if you want to read an actual book for 10 or 15 minutes, something maybe not too stimulating before bed, or if you want to stretch, brush your teeth, wash your face, do your breathing or meditation, get into bed. Whatever you choose to do, repeat every night. So then your brain starts to learn, oh, we're getting ready for bed. It's calm down time. But instead, we're watching TV, we're scrolling on our phone, we're doom scrolling, we're looking at all the stressful information, and we're trying to tell our brain it's time for bed, and then wondering why we can't fall asleep.
Yeah, and I think you hit a really good point because, again, this is kind of a unique time in human history, right? Or we've talked in a previous episode about how high our stress is, right? And then now we're talking about in human history, this is how poor our sleep is, right? And those 2 things can kind of sort of be tied a lot to like electronics, how much stimulation we're getting from our phones and social media. And, obviously there's a lot more studies these days than there were when social media first started coming out on how, it creates so much like mental, psychological dysfunction. And so, yeah, really trying to limit before we're trying to get our body to go to sleep, I think is key health advice to everybody. Right. So sleep hygiene, I love that. Really kind of taking that just like we would, because I think of like dental hygiene. I have the same routine every single night. I floss, I brush, I water pick. That's part of my dental routine. We want to have that same kind of almost militant approach to our sleep, right? Where it's super, super, super structured. So starting with dental hygiene, what else? Talk about maybe some of the supplements that you recommend that really not just help with more sleep, but also the quality of sleep.
Yeah, I am a huge fan of magnesium glycinate. There's different types of magnesium for different things, but magnesium glycinate is very calming and can help with our sleep efficiency. So it doesn't put us to sleep, but it can definitely help with the falling asleep and the staying asleep. It's very safe. It's over the counter. Most people can have it. It's very hard to overdose on, so you aren't going to harm yourself. So magnesium glycinate is a good one to start with, whether you have trouble falling asleep or staying asleep or both. That can be a good strategy combined with the sleep hygiene.
Yeah, no, I love that. So we've talked about two strategies because we always try to talk about a three-step strategy, right? So I think we've hit two. So we've talked about really working on sleep hygiene, which I think for most of us, myself, I'll put myself in this category of like really trying to stay away from our phones and from like electronics an hour-ish before bed. So that's huge. Magnesium is a big one. I take that every night, about 30 to 45 minutes before bed. Let's talk about one more strategy that our listeners can start implementing today, because I like those two strategies because they could start that today. Let's talk about one more that they could start implementing today that will really help improve the quantity and the quality of their sleep.
Another strategy would actually have to do with the daytime and the morning, and getting outdoor sun exposure early in the day actually helps our melatonin to be released appropriately in the evening. So we are circadian animals, and so we have different internal systems that are going whether we're aware of it or not. So if in the morning when you wake up, if it's feasible, ideally getting outside for 20 minutes when the sun is first coming up is optimal. For different schedules and different reasons, that might not be possible, but getting outside and getting that natural sunlight exposure early in the day is very impactful for our sleep.
Yeah, that's huge. And, we've talked about other strategies that can help with reducing stress. That's a kind of a double whammy right there because, it helps with our sleep cycles, but also helps with our cortisol responders or cortisol response throughout the day. So yeah, I love that. Morning sunshine, getting some sunlight in your eyes first thing in the morning really helps our body prepare for getting sleep later in the evening. That's great. Magnesium, and then working on our sleep hygiene and reducing electronics. I think that's those three things I think are 90%, if not 100% of our listeners can start implementing right away to improve the quantity and the quality of their sleep.
We will list these and other strategies to help improve your sleep throughout the week. Like and subscribe and leave some comments below.